the newest delegate from the Northern Virginia region, elected in February from the 41st District, which includes the Burke and Springfield corridor, is Delegate Eileen Fillercorn. Now, we had mixed emotions about this. Because of her election, she had to leave the JCRC board, but she became the first Jewish female in the House of Delegates, the first of what we know will be many, many women. She previously worked in the administrations of Governor Warner and Governor King, and she currently serves on the Militia Police and Public Safety as well as Transportation Committees. Madam Delegate.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here today for many reasons, as a past JCRC board member and also as an active member of the Virginia Israeli Advisory Board. I was appointed way back when representing Governor Warner, and so I've remained active with Ralph Robbins, our executive director of Virginia Israeli Advisory Board, and many of you in the room today. And it's a pleasure to be here today representing the 41st District. As Steve mentioned, I'm the newest member, or certainly the newest member here, having been elected in the middle of two snowstorms in January and February. And I had the opportunity to go down to Richmond for, unfortunately, only the last 10 days. But it was a powerful 10 days, a lot to learn. I felt like I was drinking from a fire hose, but it enabled me to get my feet wet and then return to the district where I've been for the last many months. Having the opportunity to speak with constituents and meet with constituency groups and talk about the issues that are important to you, that are important to me, issues that I've been working on with you all for years. And I look forward to having the opportunity to continue working with you in Richmond, when I come down there and have the opportunity to start in the beginning of the session this time. As I knocked on doors and continue to knock on doors, I hear the most important issues that I hear about that certainly are important to me and certainly important to you, again, are education, as we've heard a lot about, and transportation, quality of life issues, and also public safety, and also jobs and the economy and job creation. And that's why I'm also extremely proud of the work that the Virginia Israeli Advisory Board does, again, under Ralph Robbins. And it's all about bringing jobs to Virginia, and that's exactly what the Virginia Israeli Advisory Board does. So I commend your work there as well and look forward to continuing working with you. It was also a pleasure I had and an honor to actually attend the opening of the plant with the Sabra plant in Richmond. So that was an honor, and I appreciated the invitation through the governor as well. And so there's many issues that I care deeply about, and most of them have already been discussed here today. I have some ideas for some legislation as well that you'll be hearing more about. I care deeply about the separation of church and state, and also focusing on the disadvantaged and the vulnerable, most population. Specifically, I'm going to be introducing some legislation setting up a 529 savings trust fund, which will work kind of like similar to a savings trust for a college education fund for parents with kids, grown kids who have autism. And many of those individuals, as you know, and I know firsthand, my brother-in-law is autistic, actually, and so I've been living this and breathing this issue. But I know firsthand that there's very limited Medicaid waiver slots, as you all know. And for those parents that are unable to achieve that, there needs to be some sort of savings account, some sort of ability to save and provide respite care for this individual. So I look forward to working with you all on this issue and many others. Thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Senator Mark Herring was elected from the 33rd District in 2006 and includes Western Fairfax, parts of Loudoun. He serves on Commerce and Labor, General Laws and Technology, Local Government, and Rehabilitation and Social Services. And through his work on General Laws and Technology, he's become a very respected voice on issues of incentivizing tech research and commercialization in the Commonwealth, and the JCRC and VIAB have worked to support his efforts, and we'll look forward to continuing to do so. Senator Herring.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm really glad to be able to be back and visit with you again. For those of you who are from Loudoun or the part of Western Fairfax I represent, one of the biggest challenges we have is with transportation, like other places in Northern Virginia, but I think it's especially acute in our area. We've had a couple of successes. I've been able to secure the funding for the remaining interchanges, the state share of the funds for the remaining interchanges on Route 28 that are now constructed, and those are working great. The funding is in place for widening Route 50 between South Riding and Route 28. That contract is supposed to be let early next year, and construction should start after that. So that's moving forward. And I recently formed a Route 7 task force to work on alleviating congestion and get traffic moving along Route 7, especially the stretch from Leesburg to Route 28 in eastern Loudoun. And so I've made that request on the CTB for funding for a couple of the interchanges there. I'm pressing the governor and the transportation secretary to get those funded, and I won't let up, I promise you. And I intend this session to build on the successes we've had in technology-based economic development. And the reason that I think that area offers so much potential is because technology jobs generally are higher paying jobs, and when those companies take off, there's a lot of high growth potential. And what that does is it not only provides business opportunities for our entrepreneurs, but it provides jobs for workers and helps expand the state's revenue base without and allows to keep individual taxes low. So I'm going to continue to push in that area. Two other areas that I'm working on is legislation to address financial abuse of the elderly. I've now done this 2 sessions, and I'm hoping the third one's going to be the charm. But I've heard from both law enforcement, especially the Financial Crimes Division in Fairfax and other areas, as well as children of older adults who have experienced caregiver abuse and scams, that the laws in Virginia are not as protective of those who have diminished capacity as they should be. And what I've heard from Commonwealth's attorneys is that Virginia has among the weakest laws in the nation in protecting our older population. So I'm going to continue to push for the legislation that we've had drafted. I'm really pleased to have the support from ARP as well as the Northern Virginia Aging Network on those initiatives, and I hope that we'll be able to get them through this year. And then I've also introduced legislation to criminalize synthetic marijuana, and many of you may not be familiar with it, but it's really a dangerous chemical that is sold as incense, and a lot of our teens and young adults are experimenting with this drug. It's poisonous, it's harmful, and we need to stop the sale and possession of it. And then lastly, I'd just like to let you all know, since the last time I was here, I think I've got a new legislative assistant. His name is Adam Zuckerman, and for those of you who grew up in or are familiar with Loudoun, he grew up in the Cascades area, and he and his family are also members of the Shari Shalom congregation in Leesburg. And again, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. Delegate David Englin, elected in 2006 in the 45th District, which is the trifecta district, Alexandria, Fairfax, and Arlington. He serves on finance, health, welfare, and institutions, and agriculture, and Chesapeake and natural resources committees. He's an Air Force veteran, and he's been a leader on all of the issues on the JCRC agenda. He was involved in Iran and Sudan divestment campaigns even before his election, and so we welcome you, Delegate Englin.
Thank you. Well, it's always a pleasure to be here among friends, and I know that we're keeping a tight eye on the time, so I'll keep it brief. Going into this session, I'm going to be working on several issues, but one of my top priorities is going to be some comprehensive legislation on anti-bullying. I did some work a year or two ago on cyberbullying, but it's become evident that there are problems and inconsistencies the way teachers are trained to respond to bullying, and also just the way our school districts in general are dealing with the issue. So there's a whole list of reforms that I'm going to be working on there. I'm also working on a constitutional amendment to prevent the kind of raid on people's pensions that we saw during this last General Assembly session. Virginia has a revenue problem, and if anyone tells you that we don't, ask them why the General Assembly chose to borrow $600 million from state employee pensions rather than find $600 million to cut. If we don't have a revenue problem, we would have simply found $600 million more to cut. So, you know, it's actions speak louder than words, and if someone tells you that we have enough revenue, ask how they voted on that rate on people's pensions. So I'm working on a constitutional amendment to create a lockbox on the state employee pension trust fund to prevent that from happening in the future. But the other thing I'm doing is working to address the revenue problem. I've been working for several years now on progressive tax reform legislation that would slightly raise taxes on the wealthiest 0.04% of Virginians, but also enable us to completely eliminate the state sales tax on food, because I don't believe that if you're a poor person buying groceries, you should have to pay sales taxes on that food. But part of this effort, I'm also working to increase the sales tax on cigarettes by $1 a pack, which would bring in more than $350 million a year of new revenue that we can put to dealing with these Medicaid issues, so that people will have we can increase the reimbursement rates and people will have doctors to go to when they're sick as we implement health care reform. But the other important thing about that is study after study has shown that increasing the price of cigarettes is the key thing that will prevent young people and poor people from smoking. It'll also save us $1 billion in long-term health care costs. So aside from being good for people's health, it's the fiscally responsible thing to do. So I'm going to continue working on those kinds of issues. And as always, you can count on me to be a strong voice defending the separation of church and state, defending equal rights and a woman's right to choose. I see the red card is going up, so I look forward to your questions. Thank you.